Welcome back. Mr. Isiguzo joins us now. He's the chairman, editorial board of Vanguard newspapers. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
Well, we're looking ahead of the elections now, and of course, watchers of events just think, oh dear, we'll have to be cautious this time, to the extent that we'll have several comments, even that of Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, also talking about how both leading presidential candidates in the country need to, he says they should sign some sort of memorandum, and then he quotes, there was a letter which he circulated to the press, and so that letter made the rounds, and then this is some part of that letter, but basically he's just talking about both parties reining in their supporters, what happens after, even during, even before the 2015 general elections, because both parties, if their supporters are beating the drums of war, how they conduct themselves. He thinks if care is not taken, if something is not done to rein them in, we may just have a lot more trouble on our hands than we expect.
Well, I think this issue is maybe gaining more prominence because of the personality of Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. These comments have been made times and times and times, but the politicians themselves, I think they have a feeling they live in a different country from where we live. When you hear some of them talk, when you watch their behavior, their stake in Nigeria is very minimal. And that's what I want so many Nigerians to understand. Whether you are being recruited as a thug or you call yourself a chieftain or a supporter of something, there's a country called Nigeria. And it's important that that country survives. But from the way the politicians behave, that country is not important to them. One of them has said something, I don't want to mention the name, that the business of political parties is to win elections. When you hear him say that, you think that refers to his own political party, but that is the business of not just political parties, but politicians. That's why you could see someone, maybe you've been a minister for 8 years, you don't win party primaries, you move over to another party, and nobody thinks anything is wrong. Then you move over to a party that you've abused or that has been abusing you, and you are accepted with celebration. So the politicians are on their own doing something for themselves. These elections are for them. It happens every 4 years. If you say change sometimes, it's just change of one politician to another, but nothing changes. But from the way they move from one party to the other, you get the impression that it is the same people, the same ambitions, which simply is to rule Nigeria, gain access to national resources and use them for their own benefits. So the appeal should go more to our own people, to understand the fact that we have to go on with our lives somehow. But these are the same people who maybe they have their own private jets, they have their own arrangements. If there are problems, they are out of this place. Most of them, their families are not even here. So when we hear Professor Akinyemi making comments like that, it is for the very ordinary Nigerians to take cognizance of the fact that there are so many people willing to use them for their own benefits.
It will be difficult for them to resist that temptation, if I could use that word, because politics is big. I mean, they spend big. And so when the funds come to recruit these people, and these chaps who have next to nothing to do, and then they see some of this free money, and who is even checking the funds or how things are running. And so it looks as if it's a free market for them to reign.
I don't think it's just about the money that is being spent. If someone is giving you money, are you thinking of being alive tomorrow? Are you thinking of your family being alive tomorrow? Or you just want to take money? That's what it should get to. They're spending the money, they're abusing each other. In fact, these elections are going to be so polarized. You know, we have security issues, religion has been brought in, people so rigid. Those are the things that are being discussed, not how to run Nigeria. If you watch it, nobody's discussing how to run Nigeria. What they are discussing is how the other person shouldn't be the one to run Nigeria. Most of them are not talking about how do we run Nigeria. The economy is on its belly, flat, you know, not getting up, and people are coming up with all these bogus manifestos and so on. How are you going to run the country if you win? That's very, very important. So if people come around and they're giving money or what, of course they're giving this money hoping to get it back from the process when they get into power.
Yeah, but I'm saying it from the perspective of assuming the thuggos out there who will be recruited.
Yes.
How do you tell him not to take the money if that's where he makes his living from?
The thug is making a living. But this is the type of, if I put it that way, this is the type of living that leads straight to death. That's what you're talking about. I don't think the thug is taking that money so that we will die. No, the thug wants to be alive. But as you say, you have no alternative than to take that money. But the issue I'm coming up with now is that Nigerians should start looking at politicians as a single group of people whose interest is just to grab power by any means. Then if they come into us and say vote for us and so on, we should query their intentions intensively. It still doesn't guarantee that when they get in there they will do so. But the situation where we have now, when someone comes to convince you that you shouldn't vote for party A because it has no programs, and the party B that is saying that, what are its own programs? If it had a local government, how has it run its own local government? Yeah. So that's my concern.
Flip it to the other side.
Yes,
let's look at Nigerians begin to see politicians as a single group. But those politicians are Nigerians. Are they seeing themselves as part of this nation?
They are not. They don't behave that way. They are not. If you talk of corruption, it means people are moving resources away from where they should be used, which should have been investment. People are talking of oil prices that have collapsed. If we've been investing in this country, we've had governments for how many years? Even in the 70s, during the boom, people were saying, diversify this economy. Why wasn't it done? And somehow it's the same group who have believed that the only way they can be employed or employable is that they remain in power. See the primaries. Why can't parties have internal democracy? They have constitutions, but you see a party, 5 different primaries. That's all within the party itself. So it shows the intensity of this desire to grab power. And then when within that party that you've been, maybe since 1999 or so, you've been in that party, you just lose a primary, you can get into another party quickly, disrupt that party, other people who are there who are supposed to be contestants, you have more money you've made, the party no longer has regulations, you become a candidate there.
So doesn't that bring into question the role of INEC in monitoring this?
The role of INEC cannot decide party membership. INEC has its own issues. And even the Supreme Court has decided that the primaries are internal affairs of parties. So what have party leaders done, particularly the prominent ones? They just mount roadblocks, but to collect.
The law setting up INEC says they have the right to monitor and regulate the activities of political parties. So they have a say in what the political parties do. But is INEC even in any way effectively monitoring what they're doing?
That's a matter for another day entirely, because INEC does not. And even if it does, there are provisions in the Constitution for INEC to present annual reports of the political parties to the National Assembly. Even if it does, the National Assembly doesn't act on that. You see, what I'm telling you about is a conspiracy against Nigeria. When these laws are made, the same politicians themselves who will jump from one party to the other, you don't expect that they will be the ones to say, if you move from this party to the other, because INEC works with laws. If you move from this party to the other, then you shouldn't contest elections. No, they are ever ready to jump from one party to the other. So that's what I'm saying. They're in a different class on their own, seeking power for their own benefit. It does not matter the party they are in. It does not matter whether they are old or young, men or women. They have that single ambition. And once Nigerians understand that and question the intentions of politicians more intensively, we might get a little out of where we are. But if we are thinking is religion, is a different party with a different manifesto and so on, we do not have that.
Now, I just want to come back to the letter itself,
yes,
in terms of whether or not you agree with certain things that he said within the letter. He talked about violence in the 2011 elections and the probability of violence. He says in his words, he says, secondly, the certainty of violence after the 2015 elections is higher than it was in 2011. If President Jonathan wins, the North would erupt into violence as it did in 2011. If General Buhari wins, the Niger Delta will erupt into violence. I don't believe that we need rocket science to make this prediction. Do you totally agree with these terms? Because some people say that this is not entirely correct. How can he be so categorical?
No, if you look at what is going on, you will agree with all these predictions I had. And that's why when I took off, the people who will get this executed is the people we should be talking to. The people who will get this executed, whether they are the North or the Niger Delta. There's already much more violence than we had going into the elections in 2011. Because if you look at all the disruptions going on in the North, it's part of that violence. And then we're going to have campaigns. What will happen? We're getting into situations where we shouldn't encourage crowds. We shouldn't encourage crowds. So the possibilities that even the campaigns in the north could be disrupted, the possibilities are there. So he is right in that prediction.
You agree with him?
No, I do.
That the chances of violence in this 2015 elections are much higher than that of
They are much higher because every politician sets out, even before the election, saying he will be rigged out. That's what happens. These ones have come up with plans to rig me out. And all those things are very inciting. They're very incited. Oh, they're ensuring that there are no voters' cards in my area because they don't want me to come in. They come in on consistently with statements like that. INEC has its own challenges and all types of things. But sometimes it happens everywhere, even with football. Sometimes when we don't do well in a particular area, we behave as if all other parts of this country is working except that particular area. If it's power, it's the same power INEC is using, transportation, money, and all that. It's all the same thing going on with INEC.